Tonight on Win Television, Dream Home, followed by Drew Carey. And at 8:30, 2 hours of top Aussie drama on water rats and stingers.
Tonight, Bruce Highway closed as grass fires burn.
Union slams the police after an officer is reprimanded.
And the Czech Olympic swim team trains on the coast.
This is the Sunshine Coast Win Local News with Des McWilliam and Selena Downs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Fire authorities on the Sunshine Coast are tonight on alert as dry conditions increase the threat of bushfires. Light overnight showers across the region did little to quell the Bureau of Meteorology's warning of a high fire danger, and fires around Brisbane have continued to rage. Thick smoke from a bushfire north of Caboolture this afternoon, forcing the closure of the Bruce Highway.
The southeast bushfire crisis continued raging today, with gusty westerly winds fanning outbreaks in Brisbane's northwest and around Caboolture. Closer to the Sunshine Coast, firefighters had their hands full with this bushfire on the highway south of Beerburrum. Sadly, fire crews believe it was deliberately lit.
Very difficult at the moment because of the wind behind it.
Thick smoke choked both lanes of the Bruce Highway, forcing police to close the busy carriageway just before 2 o'clock. Fire crews, trying to prevent the fire spreading from the western side of the freeway, worked frantically on stamping out spot fires as they appeared on the roadside. Another major fire near Wirrum on Bribie Island was brought under control this morning. This outbreak near the Caboolture airfield stretching local auxiliary and rural fire crews to the limit. Authorities say this weather is similar to that which preceded the horror season of '94, when homes in Glasshouse were destroyed and townships evacuated.
Unfortunately, it's starting to look a bit like that at this stage. It is. And strangely, we're getting fires at Beerburrum already.
Local authorities say any homeowners in rural or bushland areas should be taking precautionary measures now.
They should be just basically raking up the leaves and making sure they're well away from the house, and just basically good housekeeping. Make sure the leaves are out of the gutters.
And the forecast isn't good, with more dry weather predicted over the next 2 days. Max Futcher, Win News.
The police union has slammed Queensland Police for reprimanding an officer who fired his gun at a vehicle which tried to run him down 2 years ago. The union says police officers are entitled to take action to preserve their lives.
It was an incident which drew public outrage. Back in October 1998, a police officer fired 4 shots at the rear tyre of a vehicle containing a 3-year-old child. Police claimed at the time the driver of the unregistered vehicle tried to run the officer down. Outside court the next day, the female driver's de facto accused the police officer of being trigger happy.
This shouldn't happen. We're in Queensland, not America.
But police were quick to defend the officer's actions.
I'm quite satisfied in my mind that he's acted responsibly under the circumstances at the time.
Nearly 2 years later, reports revealed the officer with 10 years' experience was in fact reprimanded for the incident. The Sunshine Coast policeman was amongst 5 officers disciplined for inappropriately firing their weapon in the past 3 years. The disciplinary action drawing outrage from the police union.
I think it was done to appease the public, and that's where I find the matter very disappointing.
Mr Bainbridge says although the punishment was only minor, it was totally uncalled for, stating police officers are entitled to defend themselves.
A motor vehicle was driven at the officer, and I believe that he was in fear of his life, and he took action to prevent himself either being seriously injured.
Mr Bainbridge says the reprimand would be recorded on the officer's file, which could hinder any promotions in the future. Belinda Burrows, Win News.
Queensland mayors are outraged by moves to force councillors to resign if they intend running for state or federal seats. The Beattie government has proposed the change, but it's been met with widespread anger at a meeting of the state's local government leaders today.
Labor says it's still only a proposal, but their local government minister signalled his opinion on the issue at a meeting of the state's mayors today.
My view is that councillors should have to resign before running for state or federal office.
And that was like throwing a match into a tinderbox.
I think in our view that puts local government elected members in the same category as undischarged bankrupts and criminals, those in jail.
The John Darien Mayor and chairman of the Queensland Local Government Association himself intends to run for the new seat of Darling Downs at the next state election, saying any move to force councillors to resign before doing so is not in the interest of voters.
A number of good people, particularly independent type people, could be excluded from nominating in an election, and that really restricts the democratic rights of people to vote for the best candidate in their area.
The mayor of the host city of today's talks has his views on the issue.
If you'd ask me, I would say that they're running scared because there are some councillors that quite obviously could challenge some members of government.
The Premier stresses the issue is only under review and public input will be sought, but it's clear Labor's already hit a major hurdle, with the Local Government Association today unanimously voting against the proposal.
I think it's totally wrong, totally unacceptable, and the people of Queensland will reject it outright.
There's no other country or state in Australia where people are required to resign from local government to run at another level.
Lisa Honeywell, Win News.
A newly elected Maroochy councillor has taken a month off work to fight thyroid cancer. The Palmwoods councillor has already undergone surgery at a private hospital in Caloundra, but says she delayed any further medical treatment until now for the sake of her constituents and the council during the budgetary process. Councillor Mackay will travel to Brisbane to receive radium treatment over the next month.
Local police are ready for the arrival of international Olympic teams on the coast, with an exercise at the airport today finalising security preparations. Their efficiency was tested earlier in the day when an unidentified package was found in the terminal. Police swooped. It was later identified as a cleaning container. And this afternoon, police put their emergency plans into practice at the airport. Everyone, including pilots and passengers, were evacuated from the terminal as police tested their emergency procedures. General Police are currently posted at Maroochydore Airport and Sunshine Coast University in the lead up to and during the Olympics.
Sunshine Coast residents are being urged to help bridge the gap with our Indigenous population. A Caloundra group calling for ideas and strategies of helping speed up the process of reconciliation.
When thousands of Australians marched across Sydney Harbour Bridge and through Brisbane earlier this year in the name of reconciliation, the extent of support for the movement was realised. Many people on the Sunshine Coast joined the marches too, and now the Coast's Reconciliation Group is hoping to reignite that passion to find new ways of bridging the gap with our Indigenous neighbours.
We have so many examples of violence because the issue hasn't been looked at closely in some countries and in some places, and we can do better than that in Australia.
The Division 6 councillor and other Caloundra Reconciliation Group members met with the local Indigenous community this afternoon to discuss strategies and ways of rejuvenating the movement on the coast.
Wanting to hear from people regarding the strategies or just their ideas, to get together and talk, Aboriginal and not Aboriginal people on the Sunshine Coast, and find out what is needed.
The Reconciliation Group hope to then take the ideas of Sunshine Coast residents to a state conference at Brisbane in November.
This reconciliation, it can't just be left in the hands of government, politicians or big business. It's a people's movement, and that's how it's gone so well.
Kesha Loy, Win News.
Further disruptions to coast schools through strike action seems to have been averted. Administrative workers at state schools had voted to start rolling stoppages on September 15 over staffing levels. They say office workloads in small schools and job security for casual staff are their main concerns. But plans for the action have now been put on hold, a further decision to be made on the 2nd of October. The Queensland Public Sector Union says it's agreed to give the government more time to respond, after indicating it would make staff levels a priority.
Stay with Win. Coming up after the break, Caloundra Council CEO named Manager of the Year.
Then accommodation managers prepare for Schoolies Week.
A girlfriend's secret.
This is not about you, it's about me.
A hot-headed cop.
You and your mate, get out!
A charge of assault could cost him everything.
What did you hit him with? What do you think I did? Dismissed.
Water Rats, 8:30 tonight on Win.
It's the biggest Manchester sale in town. Cushion inserts, gift box for law towels, 400 grand pillows, Contessa bath mats, assorted face washes, terry print and tea towels, foam back mats, and also plain dyed sheets in 6 colours from only $9.95 this week at Silly Solly.
Like to cut your household insurance bill down to size? Our ACQ GIO have very competitive premiums and you can pay by the month. So for more affordable home or contents insurance, call our ACQ GIO on 13 1905. Chop chop!
Hey, nonny ding dong, galang galang galang, boom ba do, ba do ba do ba ba, shaboom shaboom, yada da 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 da, shaboom shaboom, yada da 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 da, shaboom shaboom, yada da 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 da, shaboom shaboom, yada da 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 da, shaboom shaboom, yada da 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 da, shaboom.
Rescue me, take me in your arms. Rescue me, I want your tender charms, 'cause I'm lonely and I'm blue.
Studies show that because PinoClean kills harmful germs such as Staphylococcus and E. coli, you can trust it not only to clean your home, but to keep it healthy. PinoClean, the clean you can trust.
Come on, Tim. Eat your veggies.
Why?
Yes, Mum, why?
Because they're good for you.
Why?
Tell him.
Because they've got lots of
Lots of what?
antioxidants.
Very good.
Auntie who?
Antioxidants. They help to keep your body healthy.
And according to CSIRO nutritionists, another rich natural source of antioxidants is right under your nose. Tea. So have another cup.
Hello, Bruce Page. Coming up in National 9 News, Gold Coast MP Alan Grice in court on an assault charge. Queensland man making Australian game show history, military secrets revolutionising major surgery, and a spacesuit brings more success for Cathy Freeman. The details soon.
Thanks, Bruce. You're watching Win Local News. Queensland's popularity with backpackers is on the increase. Newly released figures show the number of backpackers visiting the state has increased by a whopping 25%. More than 270,000 backpackers visited Queensland in the last year. The findings also reveal that all of the backpackers who visited Australia, nearly 70%, toured Queensland. The market is extremely lucrative for the state. Each backpacker spends an average of $4,500 during their stay, which is double that of other international tourists.
Schoolies Week preparations are gaining momentum, even though the big event doesn't start until mid-November. A forum for accommodation managers has already been held, with today's meeting identifying strategies for a successful Schoolies 2000.
These scenes are indicative of a good time and are what high school graduates have come to expect of their week-long end-of-year party. Last year, over 7,000 school leavers were attracted to the coast. This year, around 13,000 revellers are expected to enjoy the festival events. Organisers say preparation is the key to a successful festival. Today, a forum for accommodation managers was held to discuss the mutual benefits of Schoolies Week.
We love them to come to the Sunshine Coast to enjoy themselves, to come here, but to leave in one piece and safely, and also to leave the Sunshine Coast the way they found it, in one piece.
And accommodation managers like Lou Hatton agree that it's the festival which provides security of mind to school leavers and accommodation providers alike. He takes around 300 schoolies each year and offers this advice to other accommodation managers considering tapping into the lucrative schoolies market.
Make sure it's well planned, make sure that they include the festival pass, because the kids have got to have something to do. If you don't give them something to do, they make their own activities, so that's very important.
Safety is also a big issue, and this year extra support will be provided by the Sunshine Coast Street Angels. Ultimately, though, the festival is all about having fun. Carly Hooper, Win News.
Despite predictions about the GST affecting small business, researchers found there has in fact been a surge. Confidence in Queensland's small business sector has jumped by almost 30% in the past quarter, the biggest improvement out of all the states and territories in Australia. Experts say Queensland's confidence surge could be a result of an easier than expected GST transition phase. The state's sales expectations has also lifted sharply for the quarter.
The best in the business on the Sunshine Coast have been recognised in the annual Australian Institute of Management Awards over the weekend. Caloundra Council's CEO was awarded the top honour of Manager of the Year, while Jan Becker of Becker's Helicopters impressed judges too.
Being a woman in the business world is not easy, says the General Manager of Sunshine Coast-based Becker Helicopters, especially when you're juggling a family as well. But it's a job she'll never trade.
It's a magic way to make a living. I would always want a helicopter rather than a house because the helicopter just has so much more excitement.
And the 35-year-old's good at what she does, taking out this year's Young Manager of the Year title in the Australian Institute of Management Awards. In just 4 years, Jan and her helicopter pilot husband Mike have made the training school one of the best in the world.
We went to the bank and asked for some money to buy a helicopter and it was a resounding no. But yeah, it is a different business and it takes a different skill. But it's like anything, if you take care of the little things, people notice.
It's love of the industry and lots of skill that's kept Rick Wells in the resort operating business for 20 years now. Over the weekend, he beat many other Coast nominees to take out the Owner-Operator Manager of the Year. Rick admits running the Coolum Beach Retreat and its 86 apartments is a huge job.
We haven't got the luxury of being able to employ sales managers and front office managers, night auditors and that type of thing. And yet it's sort of small enough that we can do a hands-on management style of our own.
The winner of the Manager of the Year went to Caloundra Council CEO Gary Storch. Mr Storch was employed at Caloundra in 1997 after more than 30 years in the local government trade. Kesha Loy, Win News.
Well, the share watch now. Metal Storm rose 29 today by the end of trade. ANZ was also up 8 to 13.26. Coles Myer closed 18 down. The All Ords were up 4. Stay with Win Local News. Benny's in after the break with sport, including sailing on Lake Catharaba.
And the Czech Olympic swim team trains at Cottontree.
Tonight, if someone you trusted betrayed you,
I know something happened.
would anyone believe you?
Shame.
Now,
Another girl's come forward.
in the most personal sting imaginable,
I'll do it. I'll go in.
and will be sedated,
I'm not going to let this guy do anything to you.
exposed,
You can't know what this feels like.
undercover, and at her most vulnerable.
He has to do something, otherwise we can't charge him.
Stingers Undercover, tonight 9:30 on Win.
Woolworths Red Spot sale is our biggest grocery sale. Can you red spot the difference?
Spot the saving on solvent toilet tissue, a big difference of $1.22. The saving on pure natural juice is an amazing $1. That makes a real difference. Check out Pal Dog Food, a great saving of 68 cents.
And who spots hundreds of other specials for you? We do. At Woolworths Red Spot sale.
On now.
Ladies, new season clothing arriving every day at Silly Solly. Printed rayon shorts $6.95, sun-stretched waffle singlets $5.95, wrap-around skirts $6.95 and $9.95, long rayon singlet dresses $13.95, rayon equator dresses $9.95, and smart casual sandals $14.95 and $7.95.
Sports Car Connection Curramundi, delivering excitement.
Come on, sing it for me, girls. Woo! Whoa! No! Here I come now. And you know when you hear me moaning.
The only thing as good as your cherry ripe is someone else's.
Come on, get back in here.
Hello everyone, thanks for your company tonight. The Czechoslovakian swimming team has entered a training camp at Cottontree today, the latest in a string of international teams due on the coast this week. While the team's short on experience, making the Olympic final is their primary goal. and I spoke to the coach Yaroslav this morning and I asked him what he thought of the local facilities.
It's nice. For us it's very nice. It's very similar like in Czech in this time, and it's good to train there in the outdoor pools.
How important is this training camp?
For us it's very important because between Europe and between Czech and Australia is difference, time difference, it's more than 8 hours. And then because we must prepare for the change of the time there, it's good.
Well, there's 6 here, 2 in Atlanta, 4 are new. Any medal hopes?
I think no, medal hopes no. I think the final will be good result for us, I think.
The age group's different from 18 up to 33, so you've got a young and experienced team.
They are not so young, but I think if they had their results, it is for final, not for medal.
Do you and your swimmers look up to the Aussie swimmers like Thorpe and Hackett?
No. They admire them, but don't afraid them.
How different is training here from back home?
For 3 days we know that we must be very carefully, and that's why the first days are a little bit different, but the other days will be the same. But now, because we will closer to Olympic Games, we will do taper. No, it will be different because, but the same taper like in Czech, I think.
Silly question, but are you looking forward to Sydney?
Of course.
Is this your first Olympics?
No, I was in Atlanta.
And have you been in Sydney before?
No. I've never been in Australia before.
Your first time. Well, good luck, and come to the Sunshine Coast anytime.
Yeah, it will be nice. Thanks a lot.
Still on the water, and a massive fleet turned out on the weekend for the first event of the Sunshine Coast sailing calendar. 100-strong flotilla had to battle testing conditions on Lake Atharaba for the 2-day regatta.
A total reversal in conditions greeted sailors for the second day of the season's opening regatta. The strong winds of the previous day deserting competitors and making things tough on Lake Atharaba. With 6 divisions competing, the action was spread right across the lake, the Sabos and Minnows getting things underway. Gecko took out the Sabo section over Sea Eagle and Bullfrog, with conditions unfortunately not allowing this vessel to live up to its name. The catamarans didn't fare much better in the calm, Caldwell Electrical making the best of things, Salty Dog and Mr. Elephant Titus filling in the minor placings. The normally swift skiffs were also unable to draw any joy, the mono-hull division eventually taken out by local skipper Yancey Smith aboard Ocean Graphics. Plenty of tactics in the highly competitive trailer sailors, with various skippers involved in intriguing tacking duels. In the end, it was Shima edging out Mate and Sandwich for overall honours. Competitors hoping for more consistent breeze for the next regatta. Max Futcher, Win News.
Well, local competitors have dominated the Sunshine Coast Open at the Nambour Tennis Centre over the weekend. Nambour's Jay Gooding was too strong in the men's, while that glasshouse wonder, no relation, Rebecca Pike, was taken to 3 sets before claiming the women's title. Nearly 200 competitors ensured a full day of action, which included singles, doubles and mixed events from under 14s to opens. The perfect weather ensured capacity crowds for the 30 final matches set down for the last day of competition. Among those gracing the Washington Street courts, a handful of internationals from Japan, Indonesia and Macau, mixing it with some of Southeast Queensland's best. Each competitor out to join the illustrious list of past winners, which includes Rod Laver, Pat Rafter and Roy Emerson. The locals dominated the open singles in both the men's and women's. Touring satellite player Jay Gooding confirmed his #1 seeding with a hard-fought 3-set victory over Brisbane's Chris Novick, while the women's #1 seed Rebecca Pike eventually got on top of Natasha Kirsten in another tough 3-set encounter. No luck for the Coast Juniors though, with Brisbane dominating the court. Katrika Hallam and Cameron Eagle taking out the under-16 singles, while Caitlin Levine and Michael Look won the 14s. The focus will now turn to the Sunshine Coast Open age titles, again in Nambour late September. Noosa has clawed its way to a berth in the local soccer grand final with a win over NYU at Glasshouse on Sunday. The Reds will now tackle Gympie in a second bite of the grand final cherry.
A vocal crowd was on hand for Sunday's semi-final, with early shots from NYU and Noosa giving both keepers a thorough workout. The best of the early prospects went to the Reds, the forward combination of Ray Shooten and Steve Forsyth menacing an attack, but not able to find the net. The game developed into a scrappy affair, first with this infringement, which saw a yellow card go the Reds' way. Then Noosa's attack got a touch too overzealous for the ref's liking. Finally, it was a penalty deep in the Reds' half which sealed the result for Noosa. Burnett punching home the free kick for the winning goal, sealing a direct path to the grand final. The Reds and Gympie will face off this weekend for the other spot in the finals after the Miners accounted for Kawana 4-3. To local AFL, and a luckless Caloundra side were little match for North Shore in the best of the rest clash in Majimba. North Shore finished 9th on the ladder, just outside the final 8th, but showed they'll be a force next year, keeping the Panthers goalless in the first half. Jets star Wayne Riddle racked up 10 goals in the game, North Shore finishing off Caloundra 155-48. Max Futcher, Win News.
Yes, Barcelona tonight, a different sporting tie right up to the games. Kesh is in next with all the weather details, then Win News visits Coolum Primary School.
The most deadly virus known to man is here.
You got 19 dead, you got hundreds more infected, and it's spreading like a brush fire.
Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo, Morgan Freeman, Donald Sutherland.
Those people are casualties of war.
Outbreak, Friday.
The 2000 Australian Heritage Festival at the famous Jundarian Woolshed is your chance to relive the way it was in rural Australia. Enjoy all the activities of an historic sheep station, as well as the true nostalgia of the daily Grand Parade. It's an opportunity for the family to experience the lives of their great-grandparents during the 9 days of the 24th annual festival. Remember, there are no strangers at the Jundarian Woolshed, only friends you haven't met. The 2000 Australian Heritage Festival at the famous Jundarian Woolshed. It's good therapy.
It's the biggest Dad's Day sale in town. Hair clipper sets $14.95, 1 kilo nuts $4.95, executive briefcases $19.95, car seat cover sets $39, smart look polo shirts $9.95, Dad's Day cards 50 cents, look-alike sheepskin cartridges $14.95, and sacrifice shorts $4.95.
Each week, some 13,000 Bilo employees serve around 1.7 million Australians with food sourced from many hundreds of Australian producers. Bilo, Australia's own discount supermarket.
Bilo, extra value for you.
Hay fever can make you feel lousy. Its symptoms are caused by your body's reactions to allergens. And while antihistamines only work on histamine-mediated reactions, Beckinase hay fever has a triple action that works on the 3 main allergic mediators, effectively treating and preventing hay fever. Triple action Beckinase hay fever, now available without prescription.
What are you doing, Dad?
Making dinner. Mum's gone for a girls' night out.
You're making dinner.
Yeah, it's your favourite. Chicken!
You haven't had this before. What is it?
Mashed potato.
But he's never had it with butter before.
Butter brings out the natural taste in food because butter is natural.
Ta-da!
I don't think we've had that before either, Dad.
More mash?
Yeah.
Butter. Taste the difference.
Good evening. More bushfires today as the dry and windy conditions continued. Nice weather for water sports though. This shot taken at Lake Catharaba. Overnight the temperatures fell to 7 degrees in Gympie, 8 in Nambour and here in Maroochydore. Montville was a lot warmer, dropping to just 14 degrees last night. And a top of 25 today, both in Maroochydore and Gympie, 21 degrees in Maleny and 23 degrees out in Montville. Currently it's 20 degrees with an east-northeast wind at 12 knots. The barometer is sitting at around 1,006 with the humidity at 46%. Checking out the cloud photo, and there's some high cloud in the far southwest of the state, moving across the southern districts, otherwise fine throughout. To the synoptic situation, and the high over the inland areas is moving off the coast, a trough in its place accompanied by a band of cloud. No rain though, the daytime temperatures still above average. Tomorrow's forecast in the Wide Bay, dry with southwest winds tending northwest to northeast and a top of 25. For the southeast, dry with southwest winds increasing and a high fire danger. Brisbane's high tomorrow 24. Dry again here on the coast with light to moderate southwest winds, a maximum of 24 across the coast. And the strong wind warning is still current with gusty west to southwest winds, the seas to 1.2 metres. Tomorrow's tides low from just after 2:30, high tide at about 8:30. Sunrise is at 6:03. And Des, we may get some rain this weekend.
Thanks a lot, Kesha. Well, finally tonight, Darren Lander's latest school visit took him to Coolum State School. Students had plenty of questions for Darren on how the news is put together each day and what sort of items make it into the nightly news bulletin. The visit was an integral part of the school's ongoing media studies program. And some of the students even had a go at news reading themselves, Selena. Darren tells me we'd better watch out because there's real talent out there.
I might trade you in. That's all in our bulletin this Tuesday night. From the entire Win News team, have a great night.
Good night.
Night.
This has been a Win News presentation from Australia's largest regional television network.
With Bruce Page and Heather Ford, this is National 9 News.
Farmhouse lost as high winds whip up bushfires all over the southeast.
Shocking find in Cairns, a human head inside a fish.
Brisbane Quiz Whiz making TV history. Good evening.
Good evening.
The high winds have whipped up a dozen bushfires on 3 sides of Brisbane. Fire crews are stretched to the limit and several roads have been closed by heavy smoke. So far, only one property's been lost, an empty farmhouse near Caboolture.
The fire service has responded to 1,000 bushfires in the last week, and some of them were probably deliberately lit. While the extreme conditions have stretched crews, all the outbreaks have been manageable.
The fires that are burning, it would appear, can be contained where they are. It's really the number of outbreaks that are scattered about the place which is really stretching the resources.
Until today, no homes had been lost. This afternoon, a deserted farmhouse near Caboolture was destroyed.
To the best of our knowledge, there's been no loss of life or any injury, but a house definitely has been lost, and there are a number of other houses threatened within the area.
The heavy smoke forced the closure of several roads, including the Bruce Highway near the Caboolture Airport. Adding to the smoke problem has been the necessary backburning of fires which range from Caboolture in the north to Redbank and south to Woodridge. The current fire ban will remain in force until Sunday night. Despite the tinder-dry conditions and high winds, the fire ban is not a total ban. Some contained fires are permitted, like barbecues. The fire service says so long as they're strictly supervised.
Rather than people maliciously starting fires, it's oftentimes people start fires through sheer carelessness and just not understanding what the situation is.
There have been a number of rescues, a blue-tongued lizard saved by residents at Capera and a dingo pup running from the same fire.
We arrived here to put out a bushfire and another fireman come across him, almost ran into him, running from the fire.
The female pup has been adopted by an RSPCA volunteer. Steve Marshall, National 9 News.
Police are investigating a gruesome find in North Queensland, a human head inside a fish. The head was found when staff at a Cairns seafood wholesaler gutted a large cod, caught by a trawler that had been fishing off Townsville.
Postmortem will be conducted over the next couple of days to hopefully determine the identity of the remains, and our investigations will follow on from there.
It's feared the head could be that of a 39-year-old fisherman who fell overboard from a trawler off Townsville at the weekend.
A charge of assault against National Party MP and former racing driver Alan Grice will be heard in November. The 58-year-old arrived at the Southport Magistrates Court this morning, accompanied by his wife Christine.
Morning.
Mr Grice has been charged with assault occasioning bodily harm. His one-time motor racing associate, John Trimble, complained to police that Grice bashed him in his Gold Coast driveway earlier this month. The MP entered no plea today and left the court saying little.
You know I can't say anything.
If convicted on the criminal charge, which carries a maximum 7 years jail, the member for Broadwater would have to resign the seat he's held for 8 years.
After yesterday's riot at Woomera, 24 illegal immigrants have been arrested, accused of being the ringleaders. They've been taken to Adelaide, where they're being charged over the injuries and fires at the detention centre. The damage bill is in the millions.
Inside the Woomera detention centre and the damage caused when 100 illegal immigrants ran riot yesterday.